For this practice set, we need to write a method named hopscotch. It's going to accept an integer parameter for a number of hops and print a hopscotch board of that many hops. And a hop is defined as a split into two numbers and then back again into one. So if we have hopscotch 3 here, we can see that we are going to print 1, and then we're going to have this. We're going to print a second line, and then it's going to have this second hopscotch, and then we're going to print this third thing, and then we're going to print this fourth, or this is the third line, or the third hopscotch, and then we're going to print this last part to close it up. So really, we're just going to be printing something here. We're going to print a line that's for 1, and then we're going to print something, which is the next number, print the next line with 2 numbers in it, and that's the second, print something, and then the third line, and then print something. So this is going to be quite simple. We're just going to use a public static. It's going to be void because it's just printing, and then the name is hopscotch. So if we write this in, we are taking an integer as parameter, so we are going to have int n. I also believe I 100% spelled this wrong, so it should be scotch, and also not uppercased. So once we have that figured out, and a no O there, we're going to be inside of here. We're going to end our header because that is it for the header, and now we're going to come down here. Well, we are going to want to increment these numbers every single time we print them out, not just every single row. So let's just make a number out here. I'll call it increment, and we're going to set it equal to 1 because we start at 1. Now, we are going to run through this a certain amount of times, and we know our end result, the end, not result, but number. The end number is the number that we are passed in. So we're going to do 4, and then I'll just do hop, and we're going to set this equal to 0. This should be int hop. This is some arbitrary value. We're just setting it equal to 0, and we're going to run this as long as our hops are less than or equal to our n. The reason why it's less than or equal to is because the equal part comes from having to print this last part out, but we're not going to print another line underneath it. So with that in mind, we're going to increment hop every single time so that we can eventually finish, and that's going to be the header for our for loop. Now, we know that we're going to want to always print this line. So inside of here, we're going to have a system.out.println where we are going to have, I think it's 3 spaces. So we have 1, 2, 3. Oh, oops, I am on a Mac. So if you hit the space bar, it gives you 2 decimals if you hit it rapidly. So we'll have 1, 2, 3. We are going to have our number. So we're going to have increment inside of here. Oh, also, we are going to want to append this since this is an integer. So we are going to end this quotes. And then we're going to have a plus and then increment. So that appends it to the string where we have these 3 spaces here. And then to this, we are going to want to append 3 more spaces because we have this right here, and then we have it on this side behind the 1. So we have plus and then just 1, 2, 3, and then we can end our line. So that is just going to be the first line. Now, we're going to have an if statement inside of here, and it's going to check if we need to print this line out. And it's only going to print this line out if our number, or if our amount of hops does not equal to the integer number passed in. Because if it is, then we're at this last row, and we don't need to print out something like this. So if that's the case, we're going to be inside of this if statement. Now, you're going to need to increment our increment variable by 1, so we can print out this 2 right here. So inside of here, we are going to have increment, and then we are going to do plus plus to increment it, and then we are going to have a system.out.print line, and then inside of here, we are just going to have our increment first. That's the first thing. So we're going to do increment, and then to this, we are going to append 3 spaces, and then we're going to append the next number. Now there's a problem though. We need to increment it first. So what we can do is just end this line. We can change this from a print line to just a print, and then below it, we're just going to do increment plus plus, so that increments are increment. And then we're going to do a system.out.print, so it prints it on the same line. Or I'm sorry, we're going to do system.out.print line. And the reason why we're doing a print line is because when we are done with this, we are going to want to just print a new line. So system.out.print line. And that way, when we go outside of this if statement back into this for loop, we can print this again on a new line. So we're going to do print line, and we're just going to have our increment inside of here. And then we can end this line. And we want to increment our increment once more so that when we pass through here, this will be the next value. So we're just going to do increment plus plus, end this line, end this if statement, end the for loop, and then end our function. We can click submit here. And I spelled this wrong. Should be increment. So with that spelled correctly, we can submit this. We will run our tests, and we have an error right here. It's because I don't have the proper spacing. So instead of just 3 spaces in here, we can count these out. We should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So instead of 3, we'll have 4 or 5. Now with the proper spacing, it looks like that's all that it was. We have passed 6 out of 6 tests, and we've passed and practiced exercise 5.10, which is hopscotch.